Lyle, thank God those people in those pictures make me so happy because that song drives me crazy.
It's still better. What was there before?
That's no joke, 100%. I hope the people can see. I got my computer running again, so you're not looking at me through my phone. Sorry about that last week with our guest Caleb. That was a great show last week, wasn't it?
It was a really good show, and I see you have that computer going. We done a little test with it the other day. It seems like your audio and video is really good, and I'm hoping you're happy with it because it looks great from here.
I got a little pixelation down here like we talked about, but I ordered a new webcam now. There it is. You can see that like right here a little bit.
Yep, right at the bottom.
I ordered a new one to replace that, so we'll be back in action starting next week. And also, hey, let me plug my channel here real quick. Guys, I think I'm going live tomorrow. As long as the weather holds up, I'm going to go do a little walleye fishing since the water's high and they finally opened my river up, Lyle. No wake. So I got a long ride to get from my marina sponsor. Thank you, Port Barrington Marina. You guys are awesome. To where I'm going to be fishing. So I'll probably end up setting up the live stream while I'm doing that, and I'll just be hanging out tomorrow. I'm going to be casting some hole crawlers on some big old jig heads and see if we can't jig us up some walleye because I got to finish stocking the freezer, and then after that we're going back after some flatheads and channel cats later on this week or next week. But
that sounds good to me because I know that if they're not off nest, they will be really soon. I'm sure that they're all off the nest here. I can't imagine any of them still being on, but I do know a lot of guys are still catching them that are tore up. But that doesn't mean that they've been on nest for a while. I mean, they're just like you and me, Mark. They got to heal up once they take them beatings, and that's basically what it is. Some of them guys take a hell of a beating, and usually it's not the females, usually it's the males. It's most always.
It's like they got done being in a gladiator's arena for the most part. I've caught some really beat up ones where the skin is scraped off all the way to the bone on their heads and stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of times they're off. I don't know yet. I see Ryan's in chat. He'd probably know better than me. I know one guy that we both know that just posted a couple pictures of him, but he's way up north, so I don't see why those would be off and down here isn't. So we'll see. We're going to wait till next week. I did get out there and do a water swap on my bait tank, Lyle, and I did a live stream about 5 weeks ago, maybe even 6 weeks ago, catching some bait. I still got every single one of those bluegills in my bait tank, Lyle. They are doing fantastic.
That's awesome. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but you have a 100-gallon bait tank.
I do. I have a Rubbermaid 100-gallon stock tank. They're called. Right. You get them at like Tractor Supply and such. And I picked that up for $10 at Goodwill. I found it, so I picked it up there. I got a video on my channel about the filter I use, which is a simple pond filter. You just drop it right in. I use the same one. I've had to replace the media a couple of times, but other than that, it's been running pretty good. And now I ordered some pond food for bluegill, bass, and catfish. They're like little pellets, and I started using that this year, and I give that all the credit for these fish living as long as they are. Not because I wasn't feeding them before, but I was using them too fast. But this stuff keeps them healthy. None of them are getting ick. None of them are getting funny colored or anything. They're not growing real big, but they're staying alive. So
they probably in a smaller confined area, they won't grow much.
Yeah, I fill it up. Now here's a tip for you guys. What I did is I took a 5-gallon bucket and I timed how long at full throttle on my hose it took to fill up that 5-gallon bucket to the top. And then I timed how long it takes to fill that tank to where I feel comfortable it being filled up. And I figured out 70 gallons is what I keep in there. And then I use better bait, 2 tablespoons for 70 gallons. And it's, I found that balance that works for me.
Now, does that have salt in it?
I believe it does. I'm not quite sure. I'd be lying, but I'll buy a 2-pound jar of that stuff. It ain't the cheapest. It's about, I think I pay like $40 for it, $42, but it lasts me 2 seasons, Lyle. Who can complain? And I don't only use it in my bait tank. I use it in the buckets when I go in my Whisker Seeker bait shack. I use it in there when I'm transferring bait back and forth. I always bring the water from home, just because I don't know where I'm going to catch them. Sometimes it's hard to get down to the water if you're fishing off a bridge or something. So it's better to just have the water when you get there. So
I agree.
But that stuff I'll fill up. I'm within city limits. You're definitely, I got city water. I can smell the chlorine in it, the fluorides in there, and literally I'll put that better bait in there, fill it up, like on a like not a mist, but like a shower stream, just to agitate it as much as possible. And I've dumped bait fish right into it like minutes afterwards, and I've never had them die because of that, ever.
I buy some stuff from I think I got it at Walmart, and you mix it. I don't know, so many ounces per gallon, or how many ever gallon. And I've done the same thing. I've put that in, then put water in my live well or bait tank, put fish right in on top of it, never lost any. That stuff works amazingly well for getting chlorine and fluorides and stuff out of your public water, because we don't have a deep well here. We're on city water. But even deep well water, you have to watch, because they don't have hardly any oxygen in it at all. People don't realize that.
It's
very little
flat, which is why it tastes the way it does.
That's right. That's exactly right. Cistern, of course, I don't think there is any cisterns left, but they had lots of oxygen in them because the rain fell, hit the roof, run down the thing, got in the cistern, and then was brought up through pump systems. So but better bait is some good stuff. I remember when that first came out, it was just dirt cheap. Should have bought a truckload of it then, because it's like $3 or $4 a bottle. It was unbelievable.
Like that G juice is expensive. It works good too, but it's a lot of money. And I saw that better bait on an old river certified video. So I'll give Spencer the credit on introducing me to that stuff. I do have one complaint about that that stock tank I have. It's black, it's plastic, and if I'm leaving the house, whether it's after dark or before the sun comes up, man, sometimes it's hard to find them bait fish in that tank. I've been meaning to get some white epoxy paint, like some pond paint, and paint the inside of it, but it's not something that I put a priority to or ever got around to. But I think
maybe that's something you can do this winter.
That could be. Well, I usually
video.
Yeah, it probably would. That's a great idea.
You can take that with that kind of paint. Do you have to scuff it up like you do other things?
I have no idea. That tank is pretty rough finish to begin with, so it's pretty porous. I would definitely have to probably bleach it, just to kill anything that's in there, because if you got anything that's growing underneath that paint, it's going to flake off too. Yeah, so I definitely will have to etch it somehow. And I would probably get a plastic primer, and then epoxy paint. Once you mix that stuff, it gets hard as a rock. It actually turns into a pretty sealed compound, I guess. So
right, I understand. We kind of jumped into things right away tonight. What do you say we welcome everybody in chat?
100%. Let me get my screen up here. Live chat. There we go. All right. I see Benoit Fishing Outdoors. Hey, what's going on? Greg Burgess, how you doing? Carraro Bagger. Why am I on solo screen? Oh, there we go. We're back. Guerrero Bagre, what's up, Guerrero? How you doing, buddy? Lance McCool, what's up, Lance? There's my buddy Ryan over at Setting Hooks and Crossing Eyes, and Schmieder of the Cedars. What's going on, my friend? We did kind of jump into. I do have one story that happened this week, Lyle. Remember my old boat, buddy?
Your what?
My old boat, my old Lund.
Yes.
horsepower side console job. It was a little boat. People, when they saw it in real life, like when I showed up at Mendota and stuff, I remember Chris from Hooks and Hammocks going, really? It looks a lot bigger. And no, it's not any bigger. It was a small boat, But I loved that boat dearly. It treated me well. I put a heck of a lot of flatheads in that boat, a lot of flatheads. It always started, but regardless, never mind. I got a message through Facebook Marketplace, and it was the people that bought the boat from me. I saw this message come up, and I'm like, a year later, I'm starting to panic a little bit. I'm like, well, it's been a year. I got nothing to worry about. I didn't sell him anything but a boat that was great. So, I opened it up, and the lady whose husband bought the boat for me, just wanted to tell me that her husband went to go change the oil in the boat, and guess whose video they watched while doing it.
Isn't that awesome?
I thought that was funny as heck. That kind of tickled my pink yesterday. So that kind of got me thinking that maybe I need to get back in it and start making some videos and some live content, which is why I'm going to try and go live tomorrow. I might be a little rusty, folks, so forgive me. But if you got some time early in the morning tomorrow and I go live, I'll be there. I'd love to have your company. Also, I'm going to try, and I know Lyle's not a big fan of this, the vertical mode, see what kind of views we can get, because I've been seeing a lot of people getting a lot of views doing it that way, which kind of makes sense. People are watching more and more on their phones, so it's
very true.
Yeah. Setting hooks across the ice is John's bait tank, which is John is oh my goodness. That's John. What's his name? Catfish. John. What's John's channel's name? Ryan. We'll tell you in a minute. He says bait tank is called a black hole. You can't see anything. I think I have the exact same bait tank that John has.
Guerrero says he has the same one that you got.
Does he? He has the same one? Same
LED strip in it.
There we go. I had an LED strip and they've kind of burned out. Hooked catfish. That's it, Guerrero.
Yeah, hooked
catfish. I can't remember. I'm old. Forgive me. I had a brain fart. Folks.
Jonathan. When you said John, didn't ring a bell. You said Jonathan, I would have known who you was talking, because that's all I've ever heard him called.
Yeah, I call him Jonathan too. A couple other guys like Ryan and them call him John. So, Nubby's catfishing's here. What's going, Nubby? And look, there's Pontoon Jody. How you doing, Jody? And Aaron just joined in. What's going on?
I would like to know how Jonathan works as much as he does and fishes as much as he does. You know what I mean?
I do.
He's got a full-time job. A lot of these guys get to doing well and they quit their job and lose their benefits and all the stuff they have, thinking that they're going to continue doing this for the rest of their life, and some of them do. But if you've got a full-time job with benefits and all the stuff, it only makes sense to me to continue doing that just for the insurance purposes and retirement. Now, Jonathan fishes a lot, works that full-time job, and he grows every year.
He does. He's consistent. He keeps putting content out, just like we were talking about with 903, and he's good. It doesn't hurt too that his launch is right down the street from his house, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, that'd make a big difference.
Mine's not much further, but still, he grinds it out. So
yeah, he does. He does.
Brian B. Catfishing in the house. What's up, Brian B? He's the new tournament dictator. He's running all the tournaments on YouTube. I saw a post from Brian, Lyle. He said he was going to start fishing again.
I seen that. I didn't know if it was a joke or if he actually is going to start fishing.
Stay tuned, people.
We love you, Brian. Oh, but
Stonefly 71. What's going on, bud? Hey, Crappie Day, Darren. What's going on, Crappie Day? How you doing? Let's see who else is coming. Danny Stone Outdoors.
Always good to see Danny in here. I got a meme from him today. Kind of funny.
I told Lyle to lock them windows too, Danny. Oh, look at this. Ryan's known Jonathan for 25 years. That's a good friend right there. Now, speaking of which, I took my buddy a couple weeks ago, actually 2 weeks ago, wow, he's 54 years. He's known me since I was born, Lyle. I took him fishing. Once a year, he wants to go out fishing. He's like, let's see how good a fisherman you are so you can put me on a fish. And I caught 2 walleye while he was in the boat. He couldn't catch nothing. I'm like, let's go catch some channel cats. That I can get you to catch, you big dummy, I told him. And we got him on those, and he was able to take them home. It's good to take them old friends fishing and share what you do with them 100% too. Plus, I made him pick up the night crawlers. I had him pick up 6 dozen, so he had to pay for them.
Before the show, you and I was talking about something we didn't want to get into tonight, to get carried away with something.
Let me guess. Wait. Politics, Lyle?
A guy that I went to school with and I haven't seen in 45 years or longer just sent me the funniest thing ever. Oh man, yeah, I think it'd be a good idea if we do leave that alone.
Let's leave that alone. Yeah. There's Chadwick. What's up, Chad, buddy? He says, Brian B. Catfishing can't fish worth a lick.
Well, you would think Brian would have a comeback on that. You would think.
If he's, I think he knows he needs to get out there and be in front of that camera calling Chad whatever he calls Chad, which is a lot of names if you've watched the bait shop.
Well, I think Brian has had boat problems and different things, and I can appreciate that along with a lot of other stuff. But I remember he caught a fish or two back a few years ago. He was doing really good.
They don't call him Mr. 27 for nothing. Or is it 72? I don't remember. It's been so long. Wow, we're mean. Okay, step it back, Mark. You're nicer. A more gentler and nicer Mark is where we're going with 24. Pontoon Jody Catfishing says Brian's last live was in his bathtub with a green screen. When he caught a fish, it squeaked and gave it all away. It was a dog toy.
There you go, Danny. It's headed to you. Yeah, it's time to fish, Mark. If they're coming off in a nest and all that's over with as far north in the colder water as you have compared to the rest of the world, then the fish are biting someplace. And I know there's guys that talk about they're still struggling, and everybody's going to struggle once in a while. But I see a lot of fish being caught right now of all kinds. And it's not that bad out compared to what it was. We haven't had no 100-degree weather. It's been in the 80s this week. It'll be in the 90s again next week. So if you get a chance to go, get yourself out there and catch some fish. No matter what kind, just catch them.
I have a theory about that too, Lyle. You know, I'm a river guy. I fish the Fox River here, and every year the river changes, spots change, cover changes, and that goes both for pre-spawn and post-spawn. And I think it just takes, you know, not only do they have to come off beds, I think it takes a while for guys to get their game tweaked, if you know what I mean.
I do.
Once they do, and then it gets really hot and heavy, and then it dies around these parts at least. So
Brian says Chad has never beat me, so what does that say about him? I'm not going to comment.
No comment.
Ryan says I haven't caught a flathead in over a month, and not because of lack of trying. I'm sure that's right. I'm sure you've been after it.
You know what, Ryan and Lyle, I haven't been flathead fishing all year. It's time. I got to go.
Yeah,
I kept complaining about my age and being up all night, but even Ryan told me that I should just fish till like 1 a.m. We might give that a shot, though. But, you know, once I'm out there, Lyle, it's hard to give up on them.
Oh, it is. And once a true flathead fisherman and now me, I like catching blues and channels as much or more than I like catching flatheads, simply because they're easier to catch. I mean, it's just, and I like to eat them, and I love flathead, but it's really hard for me to kill them anymore. It didn't used to bother me, but it does now. Regardless, the point of this is a guy that fishes specifically for flatheads or targets them the majority of the time, it takes a lot of work, and he's got to spend a lot of time and put his homework in, where I can go out and throw out some baits and drag up and down the ledges, and I can catch blues and channels.
Well, like anything, and I've said this time and time again, some waters are better than others. You know, one flathead in a night, 2 flathead in a night around here is a good night. you know,
It's a good night anywhere.
You see people, you know, like myself and others who post pictures with flatheads, and like I have in the past, and you know, people think you're on them all the time, but you're not. They don't know the hours it takes, and I'm not even talking about catching bait, keeping bait, you know, getting out there, looking at the river, fighting the traffic, waiting for waters to calm down on a busy river system like mine. It's a grind. It definitely is. So I definitely needed this year as a little bit of break, but I think I'm back to getting at it. I'm gonna let you read that comment right there, Lyle.
It was 7.2, not 72. But was that Jody's fish or Brian B's? I've lost track. Can't keep up. Yeah, since we moved down here, I don't do a lot of flathead fishing. If I do, we're going to head to the Osage arm of Truman Lake and go up the river, up around Osceola and places like that. Maybe even further west than that, because it's a river system. It's not a big river system, but it's the main tributary to Truman Lake. But you can go up there and catch flatheads and target them. Where in the lakes, you got to work to find flatheads in a lake, or I have to. Maybe some guys don't. I have to. So that makes the channel cat and blue cat fishing easier for me. And then again, I like to fish for flatheads with live bait. And that's where my love for bluegill and green sunfish and long-haired sunfish and stuff like that come into play, because, my God, what's more fun than going out and catching 15, 20 of them in a couple of hours? They're so much fun to catch. And if you can't keep them live, just throw them back and go catch them when you need them.
When I was flathead fishing twice a week without a bait tank, Lyle, you don't know the word panic until you got people waiting on you to bring bait to a place you're fishing.
And you can't get them.
And they're not even there. My goodness. Talk about panic. Holy
shit. I know. Now, Mark, I'm 35 miles roughly from my house to the Big Bass Pro Shop in Springfield, Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there is a small river, creek, whatever you want to call it, I'm not sure what it is, that is a main tributary to Lake Springfield. Lake Springfield is not a really deep lake. Overall, I guess it is, but for the places that they have places where you can fish, it's not that deep, 5-6 foot or less. They have a spillway. A lot of people catch fish and flatheads below there, but that used to be my go-to place to catch bluegill, green sunfish, long-eared sunfish, all kinds of stuff that we use for bait. And we could go down there and catch 20 or 30 of them in an hour, just rip them at will. But with all the floods in the last 10 years, that's all washed out, and you really can't get to the water from where you have to fish off the roadway. And it used to have big areas where people had pulled over the side of the road and parked, and a lot of them are washed away. Even the trees now are washed into it because the bank is washed away. I don't know what they're going to do when it keeps getting closer and closer to the road. I guess they'll do something. But man, it was so much fun to go down there and catch them fish. And sometimes we'd bring them home. Sometimes we just go down there and catch them and throw them back, because it was a blast. And there was all kinds of sunfish down there. And it just was so much fun. And like I say, unless you have a kayak or a small pontoon or one of those mini pontoons, personal pontoons, you got to have some way, a canoe, of getting down there, because you just about can't fish off that roadway. And if you go to the places where people park, there's 9,000 people there.
Yep.
And all the structure's gone out of there because the kids play in the water, and then adults go down there, they pull all the structure out, so the kids got a place to play. So that's just an example of how things change.
You know, just a few years ago in my bank fishing days, I got a spot here where I can get on the channel cats pretty pretty regularly. And there was a brush pile right off the corner of this little island I fish off of. And that I would always pick up, whether it was bluegill or crappie, there was always something in there and it'd give me something to do waiting on them catfish. And then I pulled up one day and there was a bunch of kids that got tired of their bass lures getting stuck in that structure and they pulled it right out of the water, Lyle.
Yeah.
Threw it in the dumpster. They thought they were doing good. They put it in the dumpster and everything. You know what I mean? It's like,
they just don't understand. I told you about the place outside of town here. It's called Big John's Access, and it's a dirt access down to the water, and people launch canoes in there and kayaks and stuff. You can't put a real big boat in there. Maybe a 10, 12-foot John boat, maybe. But there's riffles and low spots, and you got to get out and pull your boat through all that stuff. It's just a nice, quiet little place, and there was giant rocks all around this stuff, and you just see them through the water, and you catch out there, catch you some bluegill, suckers, all kinds of bait, and we'd go out there and catch them in an afternoon. Maybe take 2 afternoons to get all I wanted. And last year or the year before, a bunch of kids that played in the water out there, they got together and they dammed them big rocks all the way across that creek. And they left a spot about 10 or 12 foot wide for water to go through. They wasn't trying to stop the water. They was just trying to get all that out of the way so they have a place to play in the water. Yeah. And even with the floods that we've had this year, it didn't wash that stuff away. It's still stacked up there, but there's nothing to hold those fish in that hole now. Weeds around the edge, but it's so old and they're so big. You cast out there, if you touch one of them, you lost your jig or whatever. And they didn't realize what they was doing. I'm sure they're thrilled about it still being like it is, but it just hasn't worked out for guys that wanted to fish there. Now, the other people that go out there, they can walk down the ways there, and there's a corner you can fish off of, and even up the other way. I took James and Katie out there, and James walked all over the place. He's like Parker. He just takes off and goes. But, I can't do that. I don't have them kind of walks in me much anymore, but that was a wonderful place to go. And I still go out there, but the fishing has been really bad this year out there. Hopefully if the water went down, I'll be trying it next day or two. We'll see how it does.
Well, we were just talking about that, whether it was yesterday or earlier today, about how, things when they change on the water, you would think they always change for the worst, but I'm a firm believer in that they just don't change. I mean, it's never really for the worst. They just change, and you got to kind of roll with the punches, and you need to be able to find different spots or fish different methods or something. You know what I mean? But the fish don't just disappear unless there's like a fish kill or something like that. We got one place here that was a great spot for catching green sunfish. I could catch 24 34 of them in like 45 minutes, no problem, just with a little Berkeley gulp minnow. And biologists came in there and they did a weed kill, and they killed every single one of those green sunfish off. And that it was overpopulated. They were small. They were maybe 4 inches max. A lot of them were smaller than that. But if you could get like some 4-inch greenies on a hook, that's pretty good flathead candy. So
you better believe it.
Kind of broke my heart. I mean, it was like a half-mile walk to the spot that I would fish, and I'd carry my 5-gallon bucket out there, and I'd made that walk like 4 times last year and not a fish. So I haven't been back this year.
And I'll tell you something else that's very disappointing to me. All the places that I go after bait fish, but if they get big enough, I'll eat them. Just say, I can't find a place down here anywhere to catch mudcat.
Oh, bullheads.
Bullheads. I can't. The only bullheads that I've caught in the last 5 or 6 years was in Wisconsin.
They were big.
They was big enough to eat. They really
like my PB bullhead was like 2 pounds out of that joint.
Yeah,
jokers are huge.
It was really good. There's Matt from Wanna Be Outdoors.
What's going on, Matt?
205, Lance McCoo guy. I like catching bullheads, and they make wonderful flathead baits. I don't know how big of a flathead it would take to eat a 2-pound bullhead.
You'd be surprised what size
I
one.
think a 5 or 6 pounder can probably almost do it.
Would
They're
try, yeah.
big machines,
You know,
and again, I still contend that I know that flatheads eat bullheads. I know they do
oh yeah.
because a lot of times the bait will be in them when you clean them. But I still think that they just hate them and they'll kill them just to be killing to get them because they don't want them around them.
The way I look at it is it don't matter why, they just do.
Just get on that.
That's all that matters to me is if I can get a good old bullhead, maybe like a half pounder underneath one of them whisker seeker floats. Oh my goodness, Lyle, they're so fun to watch. Just swim around, get them so they're 6 inches, 10 inches off the bottom of that water.
Yeah.
Especially in current, and you hook them so they're trying to swim towards the bottom when you're keeping them off the bottom, and that would be further back on the tail. And it's a sight to watch that little LED light go bobbing around in the water all the time, and then all of a sudden just go bloop, out of sight, out of mind.
There you go.
Jody says, "I'm going." Wait, let me read Jody's real quick.
Yeah,
I'm trying to get caught up here. She says, "I'm going flathead fishing this weekend. I ain't coming off the water till I get a 30+ pounder." Jody, you just jinxed yourself.
I hope not.
Brian's driving. Benoit Fishing Outdoors says gonna stay out all night this weekend and chase those flathead again. Well, good luck to you.
Good luck. Danny Stone says I don't use live bait often, but when I do, my favorite is green sunfish. Way better than bluegill, in my opinion. I have good luck with all of them. I really do. I like green. They do like them green sunfish.
They're angrier. They swim a little harder, and vibration has almost is 80% of the battle. If you got a bait that's vibrating all the time and just not laying on its side on the bottom, your chances are up. There's the way I look at it, there's always a flathead within 100 yards of you, Lyle, on our river.
I think that's probably true on any sizable piece of water that holds everything. But and I've caught flatheads on cut bait, but rarely. And I know a lot of people that's all they use, swear by it. But you won't come over here and have the success you do where you're doing that out east and stuff because they want live bait here. Now, they'll take the other if they can't get it.
If I could keep shad alive, Lyle, I would use live shad probably exclusively, but I've had good luck on cut shad. Shad seems to be the bait of choice up here, and I think it's just because a combination of the flash and the smell, and if you can add that motion into that equation, I think you're good. I know a couple of guys have done really well with like 16-inch shad they've caught out here on a hook that they managed to keep alive. So
big baits. But a 16-inch shad, a 10-pound flathead is scarf fed.
I'm sorry?
A 16-inch shad is a huge shad, but a 10-pound flathead will just gobble it up.
Oh, big time. I've caught, I've used like 9-inch bluegill for bait, Lyle, and I've caught like a 4-pound flathead that didn't even have a hook in him, but I reeled him into the boat because of the spines on his fins were caught in its throat, and I got him in the boat.
Yeah, I agree. Benoit Fishing Outdoors says bullheads have been just as elusive as flatheads this year. I don't doubt that. But they're great bait. They're great bait. And we're supposed to be talking about panfish, but fish are fish. And
wait. Welcome to Flathead Nation.
No,
not today.
Not we'll talk about that later.
All right.
But it takes. You can say what you want. Those fish, especially flathead, eat fish. That's their diet. That's what your diet consumes. So whether you're catching them on cut bait or live bait, it's still fish. That's what they want. That's what they're searching for. Now, it doesn't seem to matter really if they're hungry what it is. They'll take a 3-pound bass right now. They don't care if it's a bass. If that's what's around when they feel the urge to nibble, that's what they're going to take. And damn, I wish we was able to use them for bait. I really do.
No comment, Lyle. No
Yeah.
comment. Jody says, I have caught 90% of my 90% of my flatties on skipjack body sections. Imagine how many you catch if you use live skipjack, Jody. I said it, and I'm not ashamed.
Cool 5 Wild Action said presentation counts for a lot. And I'm gonna tell you, a good friend of mine, Jason Mathena, he's a guide in St. Louis. In my opinion, not just the best fisherman in the St. Louis area, heads and tails better than anyone else down there. Heads and tails better. Jason told me if you're not catching fish, most of the time it's probably not what you're using, it's how you're presenting it to the fish. Change something. Shorten your leader, lengthen your leader, change your hook. Do something to present that bait in a different way. And he said a lot of times that will get you bit where you wasn't getting bit.
I agree with that. Definitely. You got to change something up, and it's a lot easier to do that than moving. If you if you have experience in the fish you're chasing, and something just rings in your head that says there should be a fish here, don't give up on that spot. Change something up 100%.
Benoit says going chubby chasing after work. Or
I haven't done that since I was like just out of high school, Lyle. That's another kind of we're not going to get into that.
Danny Stone says, I've caught flathead. I've never caught flathead on chicken and never will. Well, I just pass on that.
Still waiting for one of you YouTube creators to make a video of a cast net in a Walmart at the chicken aisle. There's Freddie. Freddie says, hey, what about chicken? I have caught more flathead here on chicken than about anything but goldfish. Well, there's the flathead bus. Freddie, the flathead bus comes in all different lengths. The ones in your river actually probably took the short bus to get there. That's all I'm going to
say. I've said all along, the fish here are just that much smarter than East Coast fish.
I dragged baits on a live stream. I used cut bluegill and cut chicken, just looking for channel cats, Lyle. And I did not catch a single fish on chicken. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to mention that I didn't catch any that day on bluegill either, but I didn't catch any on chicken.
Right. Yeah. And it's not that I haven't caught fish on chicken, but always dinks, nothing of any size, and very few bites. Just very few. They just don't want it.
Right outside this, how do I get this? Right outside this window right here, Lyle.
That chicken?
No, that's where all my grills are sitting out there. That's where the chicken goes.
That's right. I'm not a fan of eating chicken either, but if I'm going to eat it, I would rather it be smoked.
Chicken wings. That's all I'm going to say, Lyle.
Oh, yeah. That's the best part of the chicken.
I agree. 100%. So look at this. We're already 40 minutes into the stream. Let's talk a little bit about creeks and ponds. What do you think?
Let's do it.
All right, Lyle. I got a creek here that I've done a few actual live streams from where I've done pretty well. I don't have many creeks here that are fishable, meaning that the water's accessible enough or deep enough to hold the kind of fish I'm looking for. A couple of places like Benoit Fishing mentioned they were going to go chase some creek chubs. I got a couple spots that I go creek chub fishing, not real close to home, but there is a couple of spots. Those I catch off a bridge. And I use the same method chasing creek chubs as I do chasing, bluegill or whatever else, or even bullheads. I don't catch many in creeks. I've caught them, but I wouldn't, if I'm looking for bullheads, I wouldn't go to the creeks that I fish. Definitely. Um, and my best or my proven or I should say most productive method is finding that freaking bottom and just drifting those baits the whole length, whether it's the side or whether it's those textbook tactics of finding the seams. Like first thing I thought of when you mentioned those kids built that little rock dam with that hole in the middle is I would fish right next to that seam where that hole breaks through and drag that bait across that one side until I found where their fish are, because they're waiting at that spot, or at least I would think they'd be waiting on food to come through there like on a conveyor belt.
Yeah, you just have to go below that spot to get there. But yeah, that I agree. I think that would probably be loaded. And the last flood we had, it filled the road. You couldn't even get to the creek. It was uh, 20 foot deep of 6 foot tall piles of wood that had floated in there all the way down to the creek, and they had to take bulldozers in there and push all
Mhm.
that off in there, and of course it all flowed away. But they had to rebuild the road and everything. I've only been out there once since then, so I'm anxious to get back out there, and hopefully some of that wood actually stuck. But we'll see. We've had a couple of big rains since then, but I like fishing creeks and small rivers because it's a variety of things that you're going to catch. You'll catch green sunfish. You'll catch bluegill. You'll catch long-eared sunfish. You'll catch creek chubs, red horse suckers, all kinds of stuff that are outstanding bait in this area. And you'll catch stuff that you can't use for bait. But that don't mean they're not fun to catch. I mean, I caught a lot of smallmouth bass this year and some goggle eye, warmouth, um, more this year than I had before. Again, every time the water gets really high and floods an area, it moves some fish out to a different hole and others from them other holes into where you're at. So it's ongoing process. But as long as there's fish in there and they're biting, um, let's go catch some.
100%. I like I say, I look for where I look for seams in creeks. That seems to be the way to go. I'll cast upstream from them and just drift that bait underneath under whether it's under a float. If I'm if I'm just free casting the baits, I don't want I don't want to say fly fishing because it's not fly fishing, but the baits are pretty much as light as that. I'll take some line out and I'll kind of use one of those water floats and get them right by there. I do pretty well there. Um, Another thing I like fishing for in creeks is there's always bass in there to surprise you, Lyle.
Oh yeah.
They'll sit in the littlest nooks and crannies on the edge. And although I'm not a big bass fisherman guy, the couple of creeks I fish, there's a couple of holes right there cut out in the bank, and there's always a nice sized bass in there. Up until just recently, my PB bass came out of one of those holes, which was 6 pounds 2 ounces. I think I weighed that one in. It was a pretty big bass to catch on an Aberdeen hook and a Berkeley 1-inch Cult minnow, but it was pretty angry too when you're literally 6 feet away from him, just dropping that bait right in front of that little hole, and that sucker takes it. He's not a happy camper once he figures out what's going
That's
on.
fact. That's exactly right. Um, Another thing is I don't have the access to a lot of ponds like some guys I know that live in North, um, that they have access to fishing. And there's a few around here, but not very many. And the ones that I got are loaded with people. Because they have walkways around them or nice paths or they're kept mowed down or whatever the case may be. Everybody and their dog goes out there to fish them. So that leaves the creeks and rivers so much. But if you're looking for specific things, say you want to catch bluegills, ponds and small lakes, they're usually loaded with them. Most of the like city lakes and things like that that are in parks and stuff, they're usually full of bullhead. I don't have one of them down here.
Yeah.
There isn't one. But most of the time, that's where you can find bullhead. You can find green sunfish and bluegills and probably carp, you know, and if you're looking for cut bait of old bloody carp, they're real good bait. They really are. But and you can catch those on a fly rod sometimes. I know guys tie specific flies to catch carp with. I don't really consider them a panfish. But hell, if you're fishing for bluegill and you get one of them, it's okay.
It's
They're a
on.
lot of fun.
Mhm.
They
I
are a lot of fun. And it
I know
makes
a guy that used to fish at that. Remember, I mentioned that island where those kids took that cover out from the corner, and
Mhm.
there was this one guy who'd bring his fly rod out there during the carp spawn, and all it was a little piece of sponge tied onto a hook, and he'd
Yep.
soak it in some like what was strawberry or pineapple type scent on there. He'd cast it out there, and he'd have a ball catching them things on a fly rod for sure.
Oh yeah.
Kevin Capple's here. What's going on, my friend? He says, got some nice sized bullheads the other night. Not nearly as tasty as bluegill, but edible.
Heck yeah.
I've never had, I mentioned my buddy, my lifelong buddy. He's eaten bullheads and he says they're pretty good. He fries them with the skin on and everything, though.
Really?
I don't even know if I'm brave enough for that. I can't even eat a drum, let alone a bullhead, Lyle. I
I
don't
don't
know
blame you.
about that.
They're not fit to eat.
Frank says most of my videos are small streams and rivers. He loves them.
Yeah, well, and he's been fishing small streams and rivers for years and years and years. So um, that's kind of his thing, and that's good because they're a lot of fun.
And Jody's gonna float fish a few this weekend. I got the one creek I really like to fish, Lyle. I go there quite a bit. There's a business that's off behind. I think he's some sort of contractor business. What he does, I don't know. I've never met him, but I've met his dogs, Lyle, and his dogs love me. He's got 2 cattle dogs, Australian cattle dogs.
Mm-hmm.
One is blue and one is brown, so I named them Blue and Brown.
Right.
And I always bring those what are uh those kid meals, but they got P2 packs that have like some lunch meat and cheese in them. I'm sure Chad will know. I always bring them one of those. I used to buy them just so I'd bring them over there. Now those dogs used to greet me every time I'd go out there. They'd always be happy to see me. The owner would wave to me, watching me feed them, or I'd feed them some Cheetos or something.
Lunchables.
Lunchables, that's it. I would feed them.
Knew what it was.
Thanks, Frank. Those adult Lunchables, the P2s or P3s, whatever they're called. But those dogs really, really, really enjoy those things. But I mean, the more you look, the more you find spots like that, the more interaction you have with whether it's people or pets. That's one of the big things I miss about bank fishing is the social interaction. But that's probably for another episode, I imagine. I'm going off the rails here, ain't I, Lyle?
That's okay. There's 903 Fishing has joined us. Welcome, Caleb. Glad to see you in here.
I hope your son had a great birthday. I saw pictures on Facebook. He looked happy. So
heck yeah. For those of you that missed last week's show, please go back and watch it. And if you haven't seen any of Caleb's videos, go watch a few. Give him a sub. He's right there at 100,000, and we need to push him over if we can. He's got a great channel with awesome content. Catches a lot of bluegill and crappie. You'll be happy that you did.
Make sure to share him out too. Let's get him to 100K. He's a good dude.
Absolutely. If he's that close,
streams every Sunday night. So I was watching last Sunday night. So kind
Me
of sit
too.
back and watch on TV.
Yep.
That's my downtime. So I didn't chat too much. But hello, bud. I was there.
Yeah, he has great shows.
Back to creek fishing. And we talked about him for other reasons, but there's a channel on YouTube that I've been watching for a long time called Wisconsin. I think it's Wisconsin Trout Fishing, Lyle. I think that's the channel. The guy who was making those inline spinners we were talking about.
Yes.
And if you want to see some cool creek fishing, he fishes for trout, whether it's rainbows or browns in the southeast part of Wisconsin. He's a warrior. He puts on them waders and he'll walk for miles in these little creeks out there, and he catches a lot of big trout. A lot of nice sized browns, a lot of nice sized rainbows. It's really cool. He's a hell of a nice guy. He answers, at least last couple of comments I made, he'd always asked. He's invited me to come out and fish with him actually a couple of times, but I had to politely decline because I don't have waders and I'm not a wader kind of guy, but that's the kind of fishing he does. And he's really, really good at it. So I would definitely recommend that channel if you're in the creek fishing.
I have Monday night, my grandson Mason wanted to me to take him to Bennett Springs. Well, this is bad week for that, but I'm not sure how long he's going to be down here, but maybe I can get him out and take him over to Bennett. Bennett has places that you can walk up and down and fish from the bank, all up and down through there. They have wade areas that you can wade in, but it's set up for everybody to be able to fish. So if you don't have waders, you can just, you can walk right out there and fish. Easiest way to do it, there's one spot where they clean fish, and trout are very, very cannibalistic. And when they start dressing them fish there, if you'll just tie you up some red and white woolly boogers, and when people throw them guts out there, just throw them red and white ones out there. You catch all fish you want.
And the lighter tackle you use for trout, the better. I'm not even joking, because they start flailing all over the place. They're a sight to see, and usually they like cleaner water, so the chances are the water you're finding them in is clear. You get to see that flash when they hit and see them going crazy underwater. To me, it's a rush. I like it even stock.
Yeah. So. If you like the trout fish and you think you want a big one, the best way to do that is get a set of polarized sunglasses. Walk up and down the bank on the shallow side, looking across to the deep bank, because those big ones, when they get so old, they turn them loose. That's how come there's big fish in those areas. And they'll just be laying there. And you just cast up there until you cast and float it in its mouth, because they ain't never going to bite. I don't care what you use. But if you do that long enough and are core enough to do it, you can float it in their mouth and they'll close that mouth and you own them. And then it's all on you to get them in. We used to do that for years with flies and stuff. And Tom and I've caught some pretty good ones doing that. But I don't eat trout. I try never to. They're horrible. Yeah. They're about like eating roe, but they're fun to catch. But you do have to be careful with them because they're kind of fragile. They won't. Yep. They're not like bluegill. They won't. And you can't use them for bait.
Nope.
Don't understand that, but I know people do, but you can't.
Well, I'm pretty sure Nebraska you can, because I see Josh from Tide Pig Patrol. He uses them. Yeah, he uses them, but I believe he can't. So that's what he gets a lot of his really big channel cats on there. So, but yeah, we don't use them here. Most of the ones I have access to are stockers, and those are that's combat fishing. First 2 weeks of stocking, and they're for the most part they're gone, Lyle.
Yeah, I'm sure that's right. They're gone. Burrito catfishing lady, I'm fine, thank you.
Kevin Kaplan says bullheads have a mushy texture, but they are not fishy at all. You should try one, Mark, for the heck of it. Maybe I will.
You're right about that.
I don't know. The water I catch them in is pretty stagnant, not too appealing. So
if you see a real muddy pond somewhere as you drive around, a lot of times that's because it's got bullhead in them. They keep ponds muddy, but so do carp. So.
Yep. Danny says, always wet your hands before handling a trout and release as quickly as possible. 100%. I got a cousin, a really close cousin that I kind of grew up with. He moved to Colorado and he's really big into trout fishing. He's like, well, when you come out here, we'll go trout fishing. And I'm like, not a problem, bud. No problem. He does pretty well too. He doesn't get out as much as he says he likes to, but when he does pretty well. So,
back to our topic of ponds and stuff. If you have the time, if you are a fly rod fisherman or you have a buddy that is, go out with them. These small fish on a fly rod is almost all the fun you can stand. Them bluegill, they don't have to be very big to be a blast on a 3, 4, 5 weight fly rod. They really don't. A 5 weight, for people who don't know, is kind of run a midfield of all of them. They go down as low as a 1 weight, which I've never even seen, but I know they make them, and up to as much as like 16, but that's for like ocean stuff. 9 and 10 weights are pretty heavy for stuff that we'd fish for. but a 5 weight is right down the middle pretty much, and you can catch some pretty good fish on them, and they're still fun to catch tiny bluegill and stuff on, and they're just a lot of fun. And if you get a chance to do that, you have to be careful. You get hooked on it. It's very
Yeah,
addictive, like everything we like.
Kim Burnett is you see a lot of his posts about all the panfish that he catches, and if he's catching them on his own and not in someone's boat, they're always on a fly rod.
Yeah.
That man loves to catch them on a fly rod. There's a reason for that 100%. So,
I know guys that fish crappie on fly rods.
oh, I'd like to try that too.
Yeah.
Twisted Fishing TV says, gotta smoke the trout. Steelhead dip is fire. Yeah, I've smoked trout. It's pretty good. No joke. And I've made dip out of it too. It's some capers and chives and all sorts of stuff. Now you got me thinking there, Frank. You got me wanting some. All right, so let's go on to ponds. Lyle, what's your tactics for ponds? Let's start out with like, how do you find them when you're looking for them?
If I'm going to fish a pond that I've never been to before, first thing I'm going to do is get me a slip cork and some red worms or night crawler, because all you got to do is throw that out there, and if they don't hit it almost instantly, reel her back in, throw it somewhere else, because you'll end up finding them. And once you find them, you catch all you want. They travel in small schools, and I've read this and tried to study it as much as I can. And bluegills don't travel in big packs like a lot of fish do. They travel in small schools of 10, 12, 15, maybe 20. There might be some schools bigger than that, might be some smaller, but that's kind of the average. In a pond, they'll school up more so than they will on a river, because in a river they got so much structure they can, or small creek they can go to, or in ponds a lot of times they don't have. So once you find them, you can just sit there and catch them one right after the other.
You know, I'll be driving somewhere with the wife. We got to be somewhere, Lyle, and I'll come across a pond, and before she can tell me no, I'm whipping a U-turn and pulling into a parking lot somewhere.
Got to
And
go back and look.
I get that wife sigh. I get that all the time. I got to walk out of the car, go over to the edge, and take a look.
Yeah.
And that's how I determine whether or not I'm coming back to that spot. I've
Yeah.
done that a lot. A lot.
It don't hurt nothing.
Well, it kind of irks her a little bit.
Well, you know,
Especially if we're going to her sister's house or something.
Yeah. Well,
It doesn't like that too much, but she deals with it. I'm a blessed guy. So usually I'll do that. Almost all the ponds, all these people talk about, they use Google Earth, they use Google Maps, such and such. For the most part, some of my favorite pond spots and creek spots, either or, I've tripped across and found them in that way. Whether it's running errands or being out there by myself or going to some new destination, I still have some ponds that I have written down and marked on my Google Maps here on my computer that I want to try, that are literally like halfway between here and Racine, Wisconsin, that I've gone out when I was heading out there salmon fishing. It's like, oh, I got to come back and try this spot one of these days,
Yeah, I know.
Stuff like that. That's how I find them. And once I do exactly like you, some red worms or trout worms, whatever you call them in your part of the country, underneath the float, and just have at it. I look for openings in the weeds if there's a weed line, obviously fishing around the docks that give you access, stuff like that. I'm always looking at, wind direction. I fish the wind-blown banks 100%. If the wind was blown in that direction yesterday, that's the bank I'm fishing, buddy, especially on a pond. It's easy to get where they're at than it is on a big body of water. So
that's right. That's exactly right. Danny Stone Outdoors says the dreaded wife side. Oh, I know it well, Mark.
Think we all do, Danny.
Hey, if you folks haven't hit the thumbs up, we're right at an hour time. Please do so before we get done here, because we appreciate it very much if you would. We're trying, that just helps us get our name put out ahead of stuff more than we would any other way. YouTube likes to see the thumbs up and subscriptions and people that join our group and things like that. So if you haven't done that, we'd appreciate it if you would do so before we get done tonight. That would just be awesome.
And then And then if I can find them with the worms, then I might switch over whether it's a Berkeley 1-inch minnow, and I do that because if there's bigger fish in there, they're the ones that are going to bite those. And then it just, whatever I feel like trying, definitely. Whether it's some of the jigs that you've sent me in the past, I've done really well with those, or even the smallest panther martin. You'll have to forgive me. I don't know what the size is actually on that. But those are always fun to catch bluegill on, definitely. The really small panther martins. So, the inline spinners.
They are, and I think they're a number 1, aren't they?
They could be. If I told you I knew, I'd be lying, and I don't like.
I've got some out in the garage, but I don't have them in here.
My favorite color too, folks, is the black one with the yellow spots. That's my go-to right there.
The last time I was out using spinner baits, I was using some of those, and I had a silver and purple one that was just tearing them up.
Yesterday, I told you before I left, I remember I went over to Farm and Fleet out here in Woodstock because I needed some larger jig heads. They're kind of hard to find, whether it's at Walmart. I didn't feel like waiting on them. And I checked the Farm and Fleet website. They had them on sale. So I picked up some 3/8 and some 1/2 ounce jig heads with hook keepers on them, just because I plan on using a whole or half night crawlers. And that helps keep them on the hook when you're casting them in current. Wow. And a young gentleman came up to me and says, "Hey, can you help me?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure. What do you need?" He says, "Well, I'm new to fishing." I'm like, "Okay, here we go. This is going to take a while. My wife's going to be dead." So he's telling me, "Well, I want to catch some fish." He told me about where he's fishing. I was familiar with it. And I'm like, "Well, what do you want to catch?" He's like, "Well, I don't know what's there." I'm like, "In that spot, there's smallmouth bass, largemouth bass, channel cats. There's some flathead, this and that." He says, "Well, I want to catch any and all of those." I'm like, "Yeah, no, it doesn't work like that, son."
No, it really don't.
I didn't call him son. I felt like it. I'm getting to that age where I can start calling these young men son, but I didn't.
Fish Head Videos, welcome.
Hey, what's going on, Fish Head? So you know what I set him up with, Lyle? I set him up with a medium rod, with some light line and a cheaper reel and some spinner baits.
Yep.
I'm gonna cast them, retrieve them slow. I also set
them
up.
Wrong.
Can't go wrong with one of them. I figured that would up his odds a heck of a lot more, and he would do well. So I'm hoping that he did well with that advice. But I just wanted to bring that up because the spinner baits just reminded me of that happened yesterday.
And they'll catch a multitude of different kinds of fish.
Yep, 100%.
Jesse says went to that Farm and Fleet this afternoon.
Yeah, Jesse, if you notice that there weren't any 1/2 ounce jig heads, that's because they're sitting in my garage right here getting ready for tomorrow.
That's why Jesse he wanted some of boys on sale too.
I need to get me a mold to start pouring some of them, Lyle. That's going to be the winter project this year. You and me, we're going to do some more jig tying. I'm going to tie some walleye flies. I definitely want to give that a shot, and I'm going to get me some larger jig head molds for like 3/8 and 1/2 ounce jigs, and we're going to go from there. I'm really looking forward to not just fishing the rest of the year, but I'm starting to really look forward to doing projects like that in the winter, thanks to you guys.
Oh yeah, that sounds great. I'm excited about that already.
So other than that, Lyle, that's all I got for this week.
Yeah, I think we covered a lot of stuff, maybe a little bit of stuff that wasn't quite on topic, but it's okay,
That's how we roll, buddy.
It is. It really is. But I do like fishing. I do like fishing small creeks and small rivers a lot. And I like it if it's got current, but not blasting current, because I'm using small stuff and it's hard to keep that where it needs to be if the current's too swift. But then again, pond fishing and small lake fishing is a ton of fun because they usually are so overpopulated with bluegill, you got to fight them off. You know what I mean? People don't realize that fish in ponds and stuff can be overpopulated.
They can.
And I
got a cure for that, Lyle.
Another night.
I got a cure for that, Lyle. Use them, or use them for bait over the years. You know that pond that I took Betty Jean to?
Yeah.
I fished that spot for years and years, taking bait out of that, and I really, I wholeheartedly believe that spot was managed by me and the couple of guys that fish for bait in that spot by taking bluegill, which is why those bluegill are so big in that spot. 100%.
There's some giants in there now.
Yep.
There's some giants in there now.
Greg Burgess says, "Hello, Mark. I am close to being able to call you son." I wouldn't say all that, but you made me feel well. And hey, there's Mr. John Parker. What's going on, John? How
Glad
you
to
doing?
see you, John. Welcome.
Mm.
But yeah,
205 Wild Action. If we missed you tonight, buddy, I'm sorry. You're channel supporter. We should have hollered you out. How you doing, man?
Absolutely. I thought we said hello, but we might have missed it. It's hard to catch everybody in chat, and we don't have a huge number of people in chat tonight, but it rolls along. People talk. We get the visiting about other things. The next thing you know, we've missed a comment or something, and we can't see them all. We just do our best, and if we missed you, we're sorry. We'll try to do better next time.
Let me remind everybody that I am going to do my best to try and get out tomorrow morning and go live early. We're going to go chase some walleye. We'll see how that live stream goes. And after that, we'll probably get back to chasing catfish, whether it's channel cats later on next week, or we're going to finally go after some flatheads and see if we can get on some of them. I got to get a couple in this boat this year before it's over. So it's already July 24th, Lyle. It's coming to a close. So I'm going to tell everybody out there, get out and fish, man. Time flies. Right. Don't blink.
That's right. I'm going to try to go out in the morning if I get up in time. I've got a doctor's appointment tomorrow afternoon, so I need to get out and get some fish. I got to get some fish to get on the bragging board on Monday night. So I don't mind putting them little bluegill and stuff up there. I could use the bait, but I really just want to catch some fish.
I got to remember to start sending Josh some fish pictures. I keep forgetting.
Yeah. One of the problems I have is I can't go live the places I go fish because there's no phone signal. So, but if I hope to catch you when I get back, I hope you're still out there so I can watch you, because I enjoy that too. But and you never know, you not need me and James to come in there and bail you out again.
There we go. I think we're going to go through YouTube tomorrow, so we'll see how that goes. And now, since we mentioned chicken wings earlier, I got to make sure to stop and pick some up on the way home to cook here for dinner. So
it was on sale here the other day. I'm not sure how many
I remember. I'm so old. I remember when chicken wings were a dime a piece if you were buying beer on
when I was a kid, we couldn't give them away. Nobody wanted them.
Yeah. Anyways,
couldn't do that. But that now they're, as far as I'm concerned, they're the best part of chicken.
I agree.
Other than maybe the liver, different. But I like them too. But it was a fun show tonight. Be sure to check in with Chad and the boys tomorrow night over on the Bait Shop. Jody and Stan Smith will be live Friday night. I'm not sure what's going on over the weekend.
I think Brian has a tournament this weekend. I'm not quite sure.
He probably does. I bet he ain't fishing in it though.
Brian, forgive us. not for making fun of you for not fishing, but for not remembering if you have a tournament or not.
Yeah. And Catfish Weekly Monday night. We'll be back next Wednesday. That's all I got, Mark.
Same here, bud.
Great show. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you next week.
Later, everybody.